You were not allowed to catch flounder in 2024. That's right, it was illegal to recreationally flounder fish, even if you had a fishing license. The reason for the law? The southern flounder population was apparently in grave danger. But here's the silly part. Commercial draggers, that's right, those big boats catching thousands of pounds of fish at a time, were still allowed to harvest. In the same year, recreational fishermen weren't allowed to keep any. This is Steve. He's a fisherman in the state where all this flounder drama is going down, North Carolina.
So they control it through politics, through political donations. The politicians either are actually dirty and do sort of know what's going on, or they're just being preyed upon.
More on North Carolina's fishing cartel later. But you might be wondering, why does Steve's North Carolina flounder drama have anything to do with our fishing here in Cape Cod?
There isn't a better feeling than that rod buckled over.
See, we fish in Cape Cod for summer flounder, but there are some pretty significant differences.
Morning. How you doing? I'll try not to swear in this one.
The first major difference between our commercial operation and a traditional dragger is that we fish out of small center console boats. And the very first thing we do before we go out is we fill up our boats with ice. Eric here doesn't have an ice machine himself, so we typically bring enough ice for 2 boats and give him half.
No, it's a 6.
Ask Mike, he's the one who filled them.
The second major way we differ is the way that we catch these fish.
There you go.
What do you mean 3 extra?
Huh? Yeah, I pre-tie them. I got 3 extra pre-tied rigs right here.
Instead of gigantic nets, we're using regular fishing tackle, like you'd be using if you were trying to catch the fish yourself from a pier. And the third way our operation is different is sheer volume. While draggers can catch thousands of pounds at a time, we can catch maybe 200 pounds in a single day. Yet despite these major differences between our commercial operation and a big boat dragger operation, I posted a video of us commercial flounder fishing last year, and the entire state of North Carolina came after me.
Again, I'm sorry that you had to deal with that. It's definitely not you. But I do think that what they're doing in North Carolina, I mean, it may destroy the commercial fisheries everywhere.
Today, you're going to see what it's like as a commercial rod and reel flounder fisherman. You'll also see how, like most things in life, fisheries management is a very complex issue with many stakeholders.
It's typically the dealers, the very wealthy people, multimillionaires. If you can get a legislator to sit down with you for an hour in a big complex thing like fishery, you can convince them of anything.
Once we got to the spot, we started setting up all of our rods. The name of the game is to set up a drift and have 4 rods out the back at the same time, with bait on them. As you drift, the bait floats just off the bottom. The flounder lay flat on the ocean floor, completely camouflaged, but when they see the bait bounce on by, they swim up and eat it. It's also super important to time your trip correctly, which is why I'm telling you about today's sponsor, Saltstrong Tides. Tides is a completely free tidal software that gives you all the best hard data you need for a successful day of fishing. While other tides and weather softwares are loaded with disgusting ads, Tides is incredibly concise and decluttered, providing you with all the important information that you need to access quickly and easily without all the stuff that you don't. All you gotta do is type in your location and pick the tide station that's closest to you, and you got yourself some amazing intel. If you'd rather just not worry about all this data, then Tides even has a strike score algorithm that compiles all that data for you and then gives a rating on a scale of 1 to 10 on how good the fishing might be on a given day. It factors in all the conditions like tidal movement, moon phase, temperature, and tells you which day might be best for fishing. That way you can still pick a high percentage day based off of conditions without having to be a scientist yourself. For bait, we're using these mackerel strips, but you can use just about anything.
Mackerel strips, baby. Saved some max the other day tuna fishing. Now we're gonna kill some fluke with them.
We ain't tried yet. I just got all my rigs tied up. I was too lazy.
So Cam and I made our first drops down, and it didn't take us long to start hooking into some flounder.
There we go. I got a squid, dude. Bro, I got a squid.
Bro, put him on a hook. Take him.
On a hook?
I'm gonna need some help over here, Mike.
Why?
That's the other thing with rod and reel commercial fishing. The bycatch that you get is incredibly limited. And in this case, the squid could be used as bait to catch more flounder. But accidental fish like this baby scup here can just get released back into the water alive.
Don't keep him. We are slaying the sea robins.
Shout out to Robin Slayer.
Being able to release fish back into the ocean alive means less dead discards. And that means less unnecessary impact to the environment. But anyway, we needed to actually put some keeper flounder on the deck because so far we've mostly caught shorts and bycatch. So while Cam went to the bow and started cutting up some more bait, I stared at all 4 of the rods and waited for one of them to go down.
this have a fish on? I think it does. Yeah, there's one.
And at long last, we finally started catching some keeper flounders. Though it's not very easy to show them to you on camera when they're fresh out of the water.
Little fluke.
Now when it comes to these flounder, there is a fairly controversial issue, because the keeper size for flounder is smaller for commercial than it is for recreational. And when you're talking about fisheries management, a difference of 2 inches is actually a lot. In the state that I live in, the keeper size is 14 inches. Compare that with recreational fishermen, where if they're fishing from a vessel, the minimum keeper size is 17.5 inches. On one hand, as a recreational fisherman, you might be pretty upset to hear that I can catch fish that's 3.5 inches shorter than you. But on the other hand, recreational fishermen probably outnumber commercial fishermen, rod and reel, 1,000 to 1. This size debate between recreational fishermen versus commercial fishermen is age-old. And the reality is, fish are a shared resource. Who's to say that a multi-million-dollar seafood company has more of a right to fish than a recreational guy trying to catch fish to feed his family and have a good time? And vice versa, why should a wealthy charter client have more of a right to a fish than a blue-collar waterman just trying to make a living? Because there are multiple stakeholders with multiple agendas, it's very difficult to find a solution that works for everyone. However, the reality is recreational fishermen do account for a significant amount of landings. And in the case of this fish I'm about to accidentally catch, recreational fishermen catch more than commercial fishermen.
Striper.
The striped bass is an interesting case in which commercial fishermen catch less than recreational fishermen. And I caught one by accident while Cam was on the phone with a charter.
Alright, sir, sorry, go ahead. So, you're looking to fish for anything.
Striper on this one. Striper on this one.
My half-shore rate is $7.50 for fluke, sea bass, striper, whatever you're looking to go for. Doesn't matter how many, up to 5, 6 people with the bottom fish for Father's Day weekend. I know you should be doing it for your father, right?
Random striper. While Cam's on the phone.
Alright, sounds good.
Booking a charter.
If you're looking to fit,
Gonna book charters with Cam.
For your grandfather,
Catch some stripers by accident. Just give him a call.
In the case of the striped bass, the people who set the regulations every year estimate that the majority of striper deaths are actually attributed to recreational fishermen more so than commercial fishermen. But not by a little, by a lot, with recreational fishermen estimated to have removed 87% of the fish, with the majority of those removals due to post-catch mortality, meaning they released the fish and the fish later died. Could the same thing be happening with the flounder? The short answer is absolutely not, because in North Carolina, they catch southern flounder by inshore trawling.
Like 1970 something up until the 90s, the commercial fishermen of North Carolina accounted for 98% of all the southern flounder landed from North Carolina to Florida. Somewhere around 89, 90, 91, our Department of Marine Fisheries started raising the red flag on southern flounder. The recreational sector took bigger cuts throughout that process because the commission was controlled by commercial guys and they didn't want to give anything up. The guys who sit on the Marine Fisheries Commission, though, they're not biologists. They're meant to represent the public. You have 3 that represent commercial, 3 that represent recreational. You have 2 at large, which are meant to be like just the general public, and you have 1 science seat. Any decision that was made would basically fall to the commercial side because they would have the 3 comm seats and the at-large seats. Occasionally, in one case, they actually had a 40-year commercial fisherman, a lifelong commercial fisherman sitting in a recreational seat. But you do that because our governor appoints all of our marine fisheries commissioners, and the governor can just replace the DMF directors in North Carolina. They were so powerful at one point. There's a guy named Bruce Freeman. You could look this up. He was from up north, actually, and came down here, and he was our DMF director for a while. The North Carolina Fisheries Association, which is the primary control group within that commercial sector, they got together and had a unanimous vote to fire the director of the DMF, and the governor at the time just fired him.
So it seems that at least with the North Carolina flounder fishery, things are pretty fishy, no pun intended. And just to give you an idea of just how much flounder the commercial draggers of North Carolina catch,
the total allowable landings for recreational, it was 159,000 pounds. And then we had 158,000 pounds being discarded by the trawls.
That's right, just the commercial dead discards alone, it already is equal to what recreational fishermen are allowed to catch every single year. So how is it then that all recreational flounder fishing got banned in 2024?
I'm also very hungry.
I am starving. So far today, I have had 2 donuts, chocolate frosted, no sprinkles, and a cinnamon brown sugar Pop-Tart.
I had a fistful of beef jerky, a tiny breakfast sandwich that was very good.
Oh, I still got my breakfast sandwich. Yep. That is the best 12-hour-old breakfast sandwich I've ever had.
Well, to make a long story short, the Southern Flounder populations were not doing so hot, and in 2020, all the states between North Carolina and Florida were instructed to reduce their Southern Flounder removals by 72% across the board. Without getting too much into the specifics, this resulted in a 2-week-long Southern Flounder season for recreational fishermen in 2023, and a complete cancellation of a Southern Flounder season in 2024. That's right, it was completely illegal to fish for Southern Flounder in North Carolina in 2024. And to make matters worse, the commission also decided that recreational fishermen could not tell the difference between a Southern Flounder and a summer flounder, which is the species of flounder that Cam and I just spent the entire day catching.
They also said the recreational fishermen would not be able to tell the difference between a summer and a southern flounder, as you know, the summers being your fluke that you catch. They justified saying no flounder at all across the board, and thereby completely locking the recreational sector out of a healthy fishery. And we see this greed, kind of this North Carolina dominance, right? How good these guys are at doing business. And that's ultimately what it is. And in my opinion, it's like the ugly side of capitalism, right? So if you look at that fluke fishery, even for you, so it's shared from Maine all the way to Florida. It's a federal fishery. So each state has a stake in the Atlantic fluke fishery. North Carolina actually gets 22% of the total take of that. So it's not just with the recs, it's with other commercial fisheries as well. The North Carolina guys they're dominant, man. They're really good at fighting. They're really good at arguing these things, and anything can happen. So they control it through politics, through political donations. The politicians either are actually dirty and do sort of know what's going on, or they're just being preyed upon because, you know, if you can get a legislator to sit down with you for an hour or 2 hours and you have just one of the greatest lobbyists that's ever lived to talk to him in a big complex thing like fisheries, you can convince them of anything.
And speaking of complex things, we now had to sell all of our summer flounder that we just caught, which is the last thing you want to do after a full day of fishing. So I recruited the help of Matt here, who helps edit some of the Tackle to the People videos.
Yo, shout out Matt. He's helping out with the channel this summer because he played ultimate frisbee but broke his wrist or hurt his wrist. So he's selling fish instead of playing ultimate frisbee. 1 pound, 12 ounces.
Okay, that's good.
You got a bag?
No.
Maybe run inside. We got fish, yeah.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if it was like something to sign up for. Okay.
Any preference on which fish you'd like? A big one, small one?
Small.
You guys,
I brought an extra.
how can you do that?
Like 250 pounds. Yeah. We have a commercial license.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You use it with a net?
No, we one at a time. One at a
A
time.
lot of labor.
A lot of labor. A lot of work. But it's better quality.
拿回去马上放冰箱。那你看的大概多少？我拿个2到3条吧。
3条 ，OK， 中
不是中等大小吧？因为这样太大，如果中等的我给别人2条，你看看有多大嘞？这个多少？
这个差不多1磅左右。
好，可以。那个更小了，那个。
If you guys want to buy our rod and reel local seafood that all gets sold within a fraction of the time as traditional grocery stores, go ahead and text the number on the screen. You'll get notified via text anytime we have landed fish and we're planning on selling it.
Flounder, summer flounder， 夏天比目鱼。
夏天。
因为有2种，也有冬天的比目鱼。
Alright, cross-cultural customer service might be harder than commercial fishing itself. Anyway, long day of fishing, even longer day of selling. Let's get some of these fish cooked up. This is a Fluke ceviche recipe. It's super easy. First, you take an avocado, and I like to peel them because it just gives it a nice, cleaner dice when you chop it up instead of scooping it out with a spoon. Chop up your avocados into, I don't know, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch cubes. I'm just trying to get these cut up as quickly as possible. I'm just cooking for myself in this video. Obviously, if you're cooking for a loved one or trying to impress somebody, then it would be helpful to cut them into more uniform pieces. This is going to be a pretty common trend throughout the rest of the video. I am definitely eyeballing everything. I'm just doing things as quickly as possible. Next up, take a jalapeno and take out the insides as well as the seeds, unless of course you want a super freaking spicy ceviche. I like to leave a couple in just to give it a little bit of kick. And then I cut them lengthwise first because I'm trying to dice these jalapenos into teeny tiny pieces, because nobody wants a giant mouthful of jalapeno when they're eating their ceviche. So I'm cutting them nice and small. Throw those jalapeno pieces into your bowl. I'm gonna eventually realize that this bowl is too small for what I'm trying to do. So you could probably find a bigger bowl if you're trying to copy my measurements in this recipe exactly. Then take a cucumber and you're going to, again, dice them into fairly small cubes. There's definitely an easier and a safer way to do this than what I'm doing here. But again, I am in a super rush, so I'm just doing a sloppy hack job getting these roughly chopped up. Comment below if there's a better technique on how to do this. I'd love to learn. Same thing, cut those strips lengthwise, and then you're going to dice them nice and small. Still in denial that my bowl is too small and I'm trying to cram everything in there. And grab a tomato and chop that in half. And same thing, you're gonna cut them into a small dice, maybe like a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch size. The more uniform you can have the ingredients all be, the better. Okay, moving on, red onion. I like red onions for ceviche because when you're eating it raw, you don't want that super spicy, super raw onion flavor to hit you in the face. And I feel like red onions are the most mild of them, so that's why they're really good for things like ceviche, chili, whatever. So take your red onion and give it a nice mince. This is something that I feel like I actually know how to do. But of course, if somebody in the comments has a better way on how to mince onions, then please share it with me. I love to learn. It is at this point that I realized that the bowl that I have is way too small for all these ingredients. So in a little bit, I grab a bigger mixing bowl and transfer everything to that. You can just skip straight to the big mixing bowl anyway. I should have done that in the first place. Grab some cilantro. Chop that nice and fine. I love cilantro. I think it belongs on a lot of things. My brother hates cilantro. My sister-in-law also hates cilantro, so feel free to skip it if you don't like cilantro. And then add lime juice. Lime juice is the most crucial ingredient for ceviche because you let that fish, quote unquote, cook in the acid of the lime. So I add like a lot of lime juice. I think I added 3 limes total. Now moving on to our fish. This is our fluke. And filleting it is actually pretty difficult on a fish of this size. I'm not very good at filleting fluke to begin with. And then doing it with like a 15-inch fluke just made it that much harder. That wasn't too bad. The other side I do much worse. If you want to know how to fillet fluke properly, just look up a YouTube video that's not this one, because I can catch fluke and cook fluke pretty good, but filleting it's not that great. As you can see, I lost a bit of meat. Skin the fluke because you definitely don't want skin in your ceviche. And then what I did is I halved the fillets, and then I stacked them like that so I could chop them. And again, we're still going for that like 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch size. Once you're done cutting up all your fluke pieces, add it to the other ingredients and then mix that sucker up. Make sure you don't get any giant pockets of fish. You want it all evenly dispersed. So when you're eating it or serving it to somebody, you get a little bit of everything. Add some salt and pepper to suit your flavor preferences and give that one final mix and then a taste. And to me, that was absolutely perfect. That's exactly how I like ceviche. Really bright, really refreshing. And I made Vic here a plate. She was doing some admin work and I ambushed her with some ceviche. Fluke ceviche.
Looks delicious. Good piece of fluke. Wow, Michael. Really good. Best dish yet. Best dish.
Oh yeah, really good. Very good. I need a haircut.